huge congratulations
thank you.
On this small independent film that you all made together. Tell us a little bit about the kind of looking back at it now in terms of the impact. I mean, it's had huge box office success, but also it's raised awareness of mental health issues and all this kind of stuff. I mean, for you as a director of photography and being part of this process, what's that meant to you to be part of this movie?
Well, I think anytime you make any movie, you hope people see it, right? It's like it's a business, and it's made for people to watch together in movie theaters, and so you want to make a good movie, and you're inside of it, and then you want obviously people to connect with it on some level. I think for this movie, because we always believed we were making something that could be original and a bit out of the box, and at times even like a weird art film, even though it's like not a tiny film. I think I'm so excited just from meeting so many people from so many places that have really connected with the film, like really deeply, much more than just popcorn.
Yeah.
And that I think has been lovely and surprising and really the most fulfilling part of the experience. Besides all the sort of nominations, and all those things, which are also amazing. Don't get me wrong, and also surprising, but I think that's the best part, you know. And to see like how much Europe has loved it, and England has loved it, and those kind of things are pretty great. Because obviously I live in America, so it's like I know that. But to go outside of us, even to Hong Kong and other places,
I mean, Todd had a very specific way that he wanted to shoot the movie and wanted to make the movie. For you, what was kind of the brief that he gave you? Because in the movie, it felt like you were taking bits of Scorsese, taking bits of the movies from that period, but there was a little bit of kind of comic book framing in there, little bits, hints and motifs there. What did he kind of tell you is what he wanted?
I think what we basically said was, we're not making a Marvel comic movie or even the traditional DCs. No, nothing against them. It was just like, let's think of this first and foremost as a character study. And that's why we sort of drew a little bit from those movies that we loved in the 70s and the 80s, which is, if we think about it in those terms and think about it as like, start with something real and then sort of go from there into places that were a bit more, artful compositionally. I was certainly thinking not like a comic book, maybe a bit like a graphic novel, or the fact that the frames alone, if you pause the movie, that frame can tell you the story. Is that like that alone must, because there's a lot of silence and just score and Joaquin in a frame, and I did consciously think about how that might connect to the comic book world, but not in the sort of like people flying around and that kind of world.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one sequence I did want to ask you about, which was the stairwell dance sequence, which is now already become such an iconic moment in not just in the film but in terms of pop culture now, of Joaquin dancing with his cigarette on the stairs. What was that like to shoot, and did it take a long time? Because there's such a great energy to it.
No, the thing about so many things that become iconic, when you're making them, rarely do they feel iconic. We had been planning for that scene for a while, and we shot a lot of this stuff in his neighborhood late in the shoot because we wanted it to be wintry and cold and dead trees. So it was one of our last, things we shot outside. But I'm like worried because we wet the stairs. Is he going to slip? We have 2 hours before we lose the light because we have to move on to some other location. So as a cameraman, sometimes you're literally thinking about. You're not thinking and sort of stepping back from it and going, this is going to be a famous scene and this is going to be famous stairs and all that. We're just like, let's make sure we get everything we need so we can move on. Yeah.
Just a quick word on Joaquin. I mean, everyone's obviously talking about his performance. He is, for many people, the favourite to go home with a lot of these gongs. For you, I mean, what was it like being around him and then seeing the final product? Because he is just absolutely tremendous in this film.
He's the best I've ever worked with. He really is. And I think that sort of relationship of him to the camera is something is so special. And from literally day one, I went home and I said, man, this movie's going to be something special. And sort of like, don't fuck it up. Because I realized what a high level he was setting and really a high bar. And so everyone sort of had to rise to like the level that he's doing. And we had high expectations for ourselves, like really high. Jokingly, I'd said to Todd, like, this can't even be a success unless this movie just breaks it all and like really rips it wide open. We get award nomination. He's like, get out of here, man. We'll make a good movie. I'm like, no, man, we have to make the best movie. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So,
Just a final question. Forgive me if this is wrong, but I believe you're working with Aaron, or worked with Aaron Sorkin on his new film. Is that true? No.
That would be cool, though.
That would be cool.
Let him know. I'd work with him.
IMDb's let me down today.
No,
it's let me down.
I'm working on another DC movie called Black Adam.
Of course you are.
That's right.
Of course you are.
But I will work with Aaron. So when you see him, talk to him. Spread it along this. I'll just
along.
have him reach out for the next one.
You're going to a different comic book movie. I mean, very early stages with Dwayne Johnson, I can imagine. But that is part of the kind of the flying stuff and all that. A bit more out there.
And yet, right? So that's the challenge, right? In the same way of like, okay, now this is maybe in sort of surface level, more traditional comic book movie. He does fly and things like that. But now, how do we still kind of turn it on its head? How do we still find a way to like make it feel like, as original as we intend to every time we set out to make a movie? So right after this next weekend, I'm going to sort of dig in really hard and start figuring that out.
Fantastic. Well, lovely to speak to you. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey, you guys!